Welcome back to room 303. We are today now turning to Mr. Conrad's Unstoppable volume, lesson number 32, Rough, Tough, and Hard to Bluff. You should be in your journals as well. Let's concentrate right away on the focus of this chapter. There are a number of them, but let's put this one down. You are your habits. Let's write that down. You are your habits. Of course, bad ones will curse you, good ones will bless you, right? And help you. You are your habits. That is to say, what you do routinely, your rhythms, if you will. Let's go ahead and listen to Mr. Conrad talk about his grandpa. My grandfather built his own house. If that doesn't impress you, wait until you hear how he did it. He dug the foundation with a mule and a scoop. He foraged the fields for red sandstone rock. He'd load the rock in a truck, drive back to the home site. One day, while driving an overloaded truck across the wooden bridge, the bridge collapsed. The rock spilled into the creek and the truck had to be pulled out. Once he got the rock home, he painstakingly chipped and cut each stone until it fit. Some of those stones weighed over 250 pounds. He did this for 13 years. I was always fascinated by the house my grandfather built. As one of several of his grandchildren, I frequently would ask questions like, how'd you lift those rocks so high? It seemed almost any question would elicit the same response. Quote, because I'm rough, tough, and hard to bluff, end quote. It was Grandpa's favorite saying, and I always loved when he said it. I heard it millions of times. Grandpa would brag that he graduated from the College of Hard Knocks, Corn Cob University, he called it. His degree was in hard physical labor. He was a farmer, a stonemason, and an alcoholic. He started drinking at age 34. He and the guy he worked with would occasionally stop at the bar after work. Eventually, it became a habit almost every night. I really didn't know Grandpa was an alcoholic. However, I do remember going to the bar with him. He'd load all 7 of his grandkids in the back of his truck. Its bed so rusted out that we could drop some stones through it. We loved doing that and watching the stones fly down the road. When we arrived at his favorite bar, he'd pick us up, put us on the bar stools. He would buy us each a cola and a box of Cracker Jacks. His favorite beer was Pabst Blue Ribbon. After we all had a few, he would race to the truck for the much-anticipated ride home. Our grandkids would stand up, we grandkids would stand up in the bed of the truck and pound our little fists on the cab roof. This meant we wanted to go faster. Grandpa would go like a bat out of hell over Red Lane Road, which had a bunch of hills that would tickle our stomachs as we flew over them. Our moms would have had heart attacks if they would have seen it. It was better than any roller coaster ride. Just before we got home, Grandpa would go slow around the last corner, and we all sat down like we'd been there the whole time. One day, all 7 of us were picking mint tea, which grew wild in the fields near our home. We noticed that the mean black Angus bull was chained in the meadow in a different spot and figured somebody moved him. We took off our jackets and waved them at the bull, pretending we were brave matadors. Knowing the bull was chained, we even shouted, "Here, bully, bully, bully." Suddenly, my cousin screamed. We looked up and saw the bull charging right at us. We panicked and screamed and started to run. My brother Kevin tripped and fell. The bull lowered his horns as he closed in. Just in the last second, Kevin got up and scrambled over a log where the bull stopped. It had busted his chain and nearly busted us. We ran for the one person we all knew was rough, tough, and hard to bluff, Grandpa. I'll never forget how he walked up and twisted the ring in that bull's nose, and the bull laid on his side and we cheered and clapped. Grandpa really was rough, tough, and hard to bluff. In high school, he only missed one of my basketball games my senior year. It just happened to be the most important one. We were playing one of our biggest rivals, Daniel Boone High School. They were from the town of Birdsboro, the same town of Grandpa's favorite bar, Basil's. Daniel Boone was undefeated. A few days before the game, Grandpa fell and broke his arm. He was laid up from the fall and was going to miss the big game. Daniel Boone High School was heavily favored to win. Kevin, his brother, visited Grandpa and told him we would win the game for him so that he could have bragging rights at Basil's. That night of the game, my brother and I played inspired. Together, he and I scored 39 points. We won 59-51. Grandpa had bragging rights for years. One summer, after graduating from high school, I worked with my grandfather. My job was to take him to the bar after we checked out the job. He would show me what to do, and I'd pick him up at the end of the day. For this, he paid me a handsome sum, taking only beer money for himself. Those are some of my fondest memories of my grandfather. Sadly, the one memory that I can't erase from my mind was watching him die. He weighed 87 pounds and was wearing a diaper. He had lung cancer. In addition to drinking most of his life, he'd also smoked since he was 6 years old. His final wish was to leave the Reading Hospital and go home. He wanted to die in the house that he built. So they brought him home, and he hired a nurse to care for him. It didn't last long. Grandpop got worse, and the nurse couldn't handle him. He died back in the hospital after all, hooked up to tubes and a ventilator. Rough, tough, and hard to puff. I watched Grandpa become stoppable. Watching him wither away and die is exactly what my students witness each year after hearing the Friday story, "You're a Banana." Let's make some quick comments here in your journals just really quickly about this observation. First, let's again make the point. Habits, can we say this for your notes? Habits are really hard to break. So it makes sense for you to be very conscious about what habits it is that you already are developing in your youth, because they will stay with you for the rest of your life. Number two, if any chapter of Unstoppable proves what I'm about to say, it's this one. Being tough is not enough. Right? Being tough is not enough. You probably know somebody in your life who is older, who is tough and really strong. But unfortunately, certain kinds of choices can damage health, and in the end, even strong men and women can die really weak because of those choices. Finally, obviously the challenge here is to make good choices so that you can die a good death, right? If we can think of it in those terms, a good death as opposed to a terrible death. It might make sense, right? I've often said to my seniors, if you could go to the moment of your death and sit there and watch it and know that your choices led you to that moment, you might make different choices for the next few years of your life. It's an interesting idea. Well, there you go. Lesson 32 from Unstoppable. Thank you.